Alright, I'm going to do a demo on disassembly of my 1967 Eldorado instrument cluster. And as you can see, my particular cluster has also fallen victim to the moisture issues. My particular car had a lot more moisture issues than others because of a leaky windshield, which essentially leaked onto the instrument cluster and in the dash, and continued to set for a long period of time, but stuff happens over the years. So real quick video on how to disassemble this thing. The bezel itself, I have most of this cluster I have kind of already disassembled because I've been working with it, but I figured I might as well do a video. The bezel itself is very fragile, obviously. You can see I actually cracked mine in a couple of spots that I need to repair and glue back together. So really take your time. Be very cautious when you take the bezel. It's very self-explanatory. There are just some screws on the back side that you have to take out to separate the metal housing from the bezel. So I'm doing this one-handed. So flip this over and you'll see where your screw holes are, and also here for the actual trim plates to be able to get it out. These are actually, some of these are metal fasteners in the metal cluster, but it's pretty, this part's pretty easy. I just wanted to show you guys how this thing comes apart. So I've already disassembled mine once, so this thing's just going to lift right off of here. I'm going to very gently set this aside because I don't want to break any more of it, because I can't seem to find one right now. And you can see the amount of damage that's done to the speedometer. I mean, everything still moves for the most part. The clock is completely froze. One thing to get the bezel off is you have to take the knobs off of the trip odometer and the clock. Because my cluster has had so much water damage, mine are completely froze up. The clock, you could move or try to move the clock a little bit, but the gears are actually just gone. And then the trip odometer and the odometer are completely locked up from rust. To get the faceplate off, which is this metal piece here, there are two screws, one here and one on the other side of the needle. And where this faceplate sits, there's like these little plastic anti-vibration bumpers along here, and it just sits in the top. So what you do is you take those two screws out, move your needle, and very carefully lift up the top and slide this thing out. And one-handed it's kind of difficult. Plus with these knobs, the stems for the trip odometer and the odometer on mine are completely gone. So try not to bend your speedometer if your cluster is still good. Again, mine's toast, so it doesn't really matter. But just so you can kind of see how this thing comes out. Lift up, and over here there are two small pins for the plastic. I'll show you those in a second once I get this out of the way. So lift up just so you don't bend that needle, and then get it out of the way, and then it just comes off. It's essentially just a piece of metal, painted metal, and of course the numbers are on the front. Set that aside. Here you can see your trip odometer and your odometer. Again, mine are completely froze. If you can maybe see right in there, the entire shaft is completely rusted solid, as is this one. So this odometer, unfortunately, is completely destroyed. But here's the idiot light box. Essentially, it's got two little plastic prongs. Try not to break those if yours is still in good condition. Again, this is toast. It's completely trashed. Mine, I have a replacement for mine, luckily, that I'm going to have to guinea pig this particular assembly. And I started to take the bulbs out. Here, there's a little paper washer here. And then here is your temperature gauge and your fuel gauge, obviously the clock, speedometer. So let's flip this thing over and I'll show you how those things come out. So you can see all the rust literally falling out as I'm working on this thing. So you can see my clock nut. I need to spray that with some PB Blaster, but there's two screws, one here, one here. I already took one out, so I can quickly show you this. And of course it doesn't want to come out quick when I'm videoing it. Take that out one-handed. And you have to tilt and rotate these to get them to come out correctly. So let's see if I can quickly show you this. So if you try pulling straight up, they won't come out. You got to kind of rotate them and twist them out, and then they come out. The fuel gauge and the temperature gauge on the faces, it's hard to see from here, but they actually have, you can see fuel assembly. They have the same part number. It's actually the same gauge for both sides. Both come out the same way. If you take the screw out here, this one came out okay. Come here, you. Of course, when you're videoing, it's always difficult. Same thing. This one kind of comes out funky too. Come here, you. I had you out a minute ago. Yeah, if you just gently twist them out, they come out. And again, if you look here, it's pretty much the same part number, fuel and temp assembly, same gauge. Speedometer head comes out with these 3 bolts here, and then the lights, obviously, you just twist these and pull these out. These housings are available on eBay and other automotive supply stores, and it probably would be wise to replace these with warm white LEDs, or whatever LED color you want. That way they'll last a lot longer and you don't have to tear this monstrous dash apart to get them out when they blow out. Same thing with the black ones, same concept. The circuit board, there's a screw here that holds it in place and keeps it down, and then it looks like they use adhesive for the actual connector to keep it in place because it doesn't want to come up. But I'm going to try to clean my circuit board trace up first if I can. If I can, I'll have to use the one off the other one. And then this guy, I'm not going to take off. This is the clock. The clock comes out with a couple of screws, one here, one here. And then this guy, I'm going to gently spray with some PB Blaster, if I can, very gently, just because I need to try to loosen that up. I don't want to break the clock if I don't have to. Who knows? I might be a good core for somebody, being 50 some years old or 50 years old. So that's essentially how you take this cluster apart. And as you can see from mine here, I'm going to have to do a lot of grinding because this particular housing is a longer housing than a standard DeVille cluster. And I've been looking and I have not found one. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm actually going to swap the DeVille cluster, which essentially is the same as this, same length, same board, same circuit, same everything, except for the Eldorado has this extension for the cluster. But if from here to here, it's essentially the same as a DeVille. So hopefully that helps somebody looking to rebuild one of these clusters. And I'll post another video on progress, or I'll append it to this one so you can see my progress on this restoration.